Social distancing isn't much of an issue up there, but on the rest of the site beneath it, it's almost impossible. Day one of strict new restrictions on life in the UK, and countless builders across the nation are at work.
Despite our works not being massively necessary, we are still attending. We are still working our way through whatever jobs we are.
Critical workers? No. But able to work? Yes, according to the government.
It is the case that there are circumstances in which construction workers can work safely, and we would encourage construction workers who can work safely to go to work.
So work safe, but do carry on working, say the government. The two just aren't compatible, say many in the industry. More and more big construction firms are taking matters into their own hands and shutting down. But plenty of sites are still open, and construction firms are telling us that at the moment they feel trapped in a lose-lose situation. Stay open and risk spreading the virus amongst their workers, or shut and risk being sued for breach of contract by clients. They say they need the decision to be taken out of their hands by government.
So if we don't turn up to site, then we're in breach of contract, and then we're subject to substantial financial penalties. And the only way that can be overcome is if the ultimate client shuts the site down or the government shut the site down.
There is, of course, one other major factor driving builders to work.
That's it for today.
We're going home.
You packed it up?
Yeah. Well,
how come as the site closed down?
Yeah. So 2 o'clock and we're off.
Sent home now, but they only turned up in the first place because they're self-employed.
If it was open, I'd be into work because I've got bills to pay like everyone else, you know. So, but it is what it is now. You just got to stay indoors and do what you got to do, I guess.
So if the site carried on being open, you'd be turning up and carrying on working?
Yeah, because I have to pay bills. I've got a little boy.
Does that trump everything else?
It does if you lose your house.
Yeah.
If you lose your house and you've got nowhere to live, you can't provide for your little girl or family, you can't put food on the table, so you've got to carry on.
The Chancellor has said help for the self-employed is on its way. Melvin, who shut up his site this morning, says the Chancellor needs to speed things up.
We are at a complete loss. I feel it's completely unfair and just a bit of an outrage, to be honest. We've just been completely overlooked and expected to fend for ourselves.
The government would say that they are trying to work out something. It's quite difficult for self-employed people, and they're just firefighting at the moment. What would you say to that?
Well, like I said previously, just base it on the last 3 years' tax returns, same as we have to do for a mortgage.
Scotland has closed all but critical construction sites. In the rest of the nation, though, building can continue. And with it, the fear is the possibility of countless more infections. So lots of concern still from the construction industry, from the stock markets though. A rare bit of good news this evening. Despite today being day one of these extraordinary stay-home measures, and despite some pretty awful market data released today showing that the economy is shrinking at a record pace, the FTSE 100 has actually had one of its best days on record, closing up 9%, that's about 100 billion extra pounds. Now, part of that is because the last few weeks have been so terrible you're going to get the odd bounce. But a large part of it is hopes being pinned on US politicians finally signing off this package to pump $2 trillion into the US economy. That is a sum so big in the economy, so important that pretty much every major market around the world has gone up today.
Paul, thanks. Glad you found some good news to report. Well, just before we came on air, I spoke to the Mayor of London, Sadiq Khan, and I began by asking him about the government's demands that he increases tube services following pictures of overcrowding.
We're running the maximum tubes we can, as safely as we can. That roughly means there are 55% of the tubes running. The good news is we've seen about an 85% reduction in number of passengers. The concern is that too many people aren't following the rules and the instructions, which is to stay at home.
Can you introduce ID tests to make sure that the people getting on the tube are the key workers who are supposed to be travelling to work?
There are a number of steps before any ID test. One is we need some clarity from the government, so it's quite clear everyone should be staying at home at all times unless there are exceptional reasons why they've got to go to work. For example, I don't think non-essential construction workers should be being encouraged to go to work.
But on the point about construction, Matt Hancock, the Health Secretary, said just earlier this evening that construction can carry on as long as builders are 2 metres apart.
With respect to Matt Hancock and members of the government, they need to spend more time on building sites. There is a very good reason why reputable companies like Taylor Wimpey, like Barrett, like Galliard, like Multiplex and others have stopped construction on their sites. We, TfL, have stopped construction on our site because it's simply not possible when you're doing extensions on the underground to have builders 2 metres apart.
And finally, you've seen there are, a fair number of people on the roads in London. London is bearing the brunt of this crisis at the moment. Do you think that in the days to come, there need to be even tougher measures in place if people aren't apparently heeding the message to stay at home?
When I was first invited to Cobra last Monday, I discovered for the first time we're 2 or 3 weeks ahead of the rest of the country. It's really important the government realises we've got to work together to grapple with this pandemic. I've been lobbying for some time for clarity and further messages. The government's gone some way yesterday, but clearly there are 2 big obstacles. One is non-essential construction workers. I think they should be at home. And 2 is we need urgently a package of measures from the Chancellor that addresses the real-life concerns those who are self-employed, those who work in the gig economy, those who have zero-hour contracts have, which is their worry about where they're going to get money to put food on the table and pay their bills.
Sadiq Khan, thanks very much.